I think it's a new movement, but it's not a new movement in the sense that there's a new cultural thing happening. It's just a change in technology. The fact that people can produce things on Xerox now means they're doing it and getting it out. I think that would have happened at any time, but the technology wasn't there. I think a lot of the influences are sort of subconscious from stuff that I read as a kid, like Don Martin, Sergio Aragonés, all the mad stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And then as far as actually looking at styles and trying to emulate some of the details and things, I'd say, like Robert Crumb, Basil Wolverton. Some of the, generally the real detailed cartoonists. Basically what I'm doing. Cartooning, but with a lot of... It's like cartooning, but it could exist in a real space. It's three-dimensional, and you can see, what's happening in the picture plane. This is how the script starts out. It's just a bunch of scribbling and a few little spot pictures, just if I want to be sure and remember a visual of some kind. And then I lay it all out, as a pencil the whole story. And then this is it in progress right here. And what I do is first I do the lettering and lay it all out, and then I go in and pencil it with a non-photo pencil, which means it won't get picked up by the Xerox and I don't have to erase it. And then I use a thicker pen for the contours, and then I go in and detail it. And this right here is a Xerox just put in there so I don't have to redraw this particular thing.
It's from another issue?
Yeah, it's a flashback, so it's valid to copy it. It's supposed to be what it was before, so why draw it over? This border tape right here just gives a nice clean edge and a nice thick line to all the panels. A lot of people, in fact I don't know anybody else that uses this, most people just ink the borders, but I think this stuff looks really slick. What I do is I just have the original art reduced somewhere in town and put them together into these little production flats after figuring out the sequence. And then they go in here, and this machine requires a bit of work to get it to produce dark black. So I have to get this thing right here primed by pumping it 100 times. This is the collation process. After printing all these pages, I got to put them in order, and somebody's got to do it. In fact, I was figuring out exactly how many of these have I collated, so I figured out how many books I've made, and I've collated over 14,000 pieces of paper. I have to do all the stapling at school because you have to have a special long-reach stapler, and I've only done about 8,000 staples.
Your thing.
Huh? This is kind of a strange request. Ultra Klutz versus the Great Pumpkin.
Yeah, okay, that one already.
Do you serious?
I think you can make them for $0.25 a piece. It's still, when you mail them out, you got 39 cents to mail it, and then like an envelope for a dime, the bigger envelopes. Yeah. So that's like 50 cents just to mail it. So there's no profit.
No profit?
No.
And you're up to the issue number 5?
You lose money. You guys gonna try some?
The plots come when I'm not trying to think of them. when I'm if I can't sleep or something like that, and plot will just sort of creep in, like some sort of insect.
And you sort of just develop it.
Yeah, it just
at the time.
And if it's really a great story, I'll try to keep thinking about it until the whole thing fills up. There's the story, and then I get out of bed and write it down so I don't forget.
So sometimes you actually do
jump up, or sometimes I'll just remember, and I'll go to sleep, and then I'll get up and hope I remember it.
Right.
But those are usually the rough plots, and then the story, and then I write dialogue and add jokes as it goes along.
Yeah.
Usually, the first thing I think of isn't even funny. It's just the plot. It's just the carrying weight of it all.
And then you just kind of insert gags along the way.
Mm-hmm. It's really hard to write gags out of thin air. You have to have something that's going on, and then you pull jokes out of it. So first I'll make a situation up, and then you can look at it and say, well, what would be funny about this? I think I'm an artist first, an artist that tries to write, as opposed to a writer who tries to draw.
Like Dave Sims.
Like Dave Sims. I think he's more of a writer that draws.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I feel pretty confident about the art now. There's still a few things I need to define, but just within about the past year, I think I finally hit a solid style that I'm comfortable with. And as far as writing, it's still herky-jerky and it's kind of screwy. Yeah, the writing needs work. But Ultra Klutz is basically an alien who comes to Earth and is something special just by virtue of his size. He's 100 feet tall, so wow, look at that. That's neat. So, and he's a hero simply because he can
do things that people can't do.
Yeah, he can attempt to battle giant monsters. He might not win, but he's out there in the arena, and so he's somewhat of a misfit, but he kind of likes it on Earth because
he gets treated good.
Because he gets treated well. He gets free food from the government of Japan. It's kind of a deal they have, and then if he gets tired of it, he can change back to Kenji, his human counterpart, and then he exists in another zone, an interdimensional closet, and he can watch television and drink beer. So you kind of get the best of both worlds.